Hello everybody, welcome back to Familia Pablanu. I am the one and only Anu.
And I'm Pablo, just Pablo.
And today we are going to be talking about the long-awaited question that you guys have, and it's how we met. And let's go back memory lane. Here you go.
Mama Africa, your children are home! So the second time we met was at that sort of youth group, college group, whatever meeting thing.
So the following day, or the day at the Bible study, I was already ready.
And so I think I remember I arrived a little bit early that time, and Anu came, and she looked very different from the first time I met her. The first time I met her, she had her hair up, she had braids and everything, but they were up in this nice, very respectable, formal, sort of way, and she looked gorgeous, right? So this next time she came in, and she looked equally, if not even more gorgeous.
Got I think I went to the gym before. I got my sportswear. I think I was wearing FC Barcelona clothing that I got from Nigeria. They put my name on the back. I have my sport shorts on.
She had her hair down. It was a ponytail. She was wearing a FC Barça shirt with her own name on the back, and I was like, wow, that's really neat. But yeah, she looked really nice, and we were chatting. We chatted a lot about things, kind of flirted a little bit. I even did some kind of stupid things.
So I went to the Bible study, and I realized something. I realized that all of the guys were acting a little strange this time. So it was sitting not next to me, but maybe across from me, and we were debating the Bible study and all that. And he, but I realized that they were very competitive. So if he said he wanted to, like, look at me, I'm tall, I can touch maybe this and that. All of the guys, they're really short. They wanted to do that too.
Now that I look back at it, I think I even jumped to touch the ceiling just to see if I could. I don't know. I really wasn't trying to show that, hey, look, I'm tall and I can do things, but it comes across that way. I don't know. You do stupid stuff when you're in love, but anyways, so yeah, we had that moment, and
I was like, that's strange. None of them showed any interest in me until this guy showed up, and all of a sudden they all want to do what he wants to do. I'm like, okay, that's a little strange.
And she seemed pretty popular, she seemed, I could tell that, like, the guys, for example, they knew her. I had known her before, and talked with her, joked with her, stuff like that. But I could tell she kind of could hold her own with them pretty well, and I was like, oh, interesting. But this second, so like the first impression I had, was of her as, she's interesting. I really want to get to know her more. She's beautiful. There's a lot to her. I didn't know much about Yoruba culture or anything. And so it was like, wow, there's all of this about her, that I would love to know, even just as an interesting woman, let alone as a beautiful one who, I might be interested in knowing differently even more. So, but then the second time that I saw her, she was still amazingly gorgeous, very beautiful. But what kind of struck me was how much more open she was, and much more talkative, and things like that. She was very out there.
And then we were just joking around after the Bible study finished. And I was like, and then, so he said he finished, he had 2 master's degree.
But then when we were talking about, what was it? We were talking a little bit about our education, like, oh, what are you doing here? What did you study? Things like that. And when she told me about her MPH, right, her Master's in Public Health and everything, that she had graduated a year earlier, I was like, oh, crud, because I also had finished grad school a year earlier.
I'm like, oh yeah, I got a master's degree as well.
I was like, dang. And the reason why I was upset was not because of her education, I think that's awesome. I've been surrounded by educated women forever, because of just being in academia, right? So I was used to that. That wasn't any problem or anything like that. The issue was her age.
All of a sudden it's like, you're not like older than me, are you? I'm like, ew, why? Why would you think I'm older than you? Do I really look that old?
I was like, oh crud, she's gonna be older than me, I bet. But as soon as I said that, like, oh gosh, I hope you're not older than me, or something like that, she was offended. I don't know why she was offended, but she was like, what? You know, what are you talking about? She's like, no.
And in my mind, again, I thought it was 35 years old. Now that I realize, okay, maybe he doesn't have wife and children, but at least he's still 35 years old looking. And he's saying, I'm older than him. I'm like, do I really look that old? I don't look 35. I was only 20, actually I just 23, 24 at that age, at that time.
Because I was like, crud. Because everyone my entire life, all through, what was it, high school, college, you know, grad school, everyone was always older than me, even if they were in my same cohort. It had to do with my age coming into school, but also my, what would you call that, skipping a grade, things like that.
And he said, guess how old do you think I am? And I'm like, 35? It's like, oh wow, that explains how your reaction. And you look young, but again, you told me you've already finished your master's program. That's why I was very shocked, like, you're not older than me. I was like, oh yeah, I started university when I was 15 years old, and by the time I finished and went to grad school, I started grad school at 19, so I was done by the time I was 22. And
what? And so we got our ages, and I learned that, okay, she was about a year and a half younger than me, something like that, almost 2 years younger than me. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. This is the first, like, girl I'm interested in that's a little bit younger than me. And I'm like, this is unique, this is different, you know? We were talking about our future plans, and it looked like, because I was telling her, hey, I'm about to go to Mexico, you know, in like 2 days.
So I'm like, oh, darn, just got to know you for the first time. Now you're leaving for 6 weeks. I'm like, darn.
So I'm like, I'm about to go to Mexico. I'm going to be working there, you know, for the summer and whatnot with this program, these students. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. So and she was like, well, when are you going to be back? So I told her, you know, when I was going to be back and everything.
And I was already planning on going to medical school. I was in the process of study for my MCAT. I was going to do MCAT, go to medical school. So I said, well, it's okay. I might not be around anyways. If this didn't work out, I was already applying to schools. I just need to do the MCAT, which I was dragging my feet on. So we said that and we departed.
I think it's gonna be that August or end of July, something like that. And she was like, oh, okay. And I was asking her, you know, what she's doing. She's like, oh, I'm doing the MCAT. You know, I'm doing all these things for medical school. Da 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 da. And yeah, I'm getting ready for medical school and all this. So the impression that I got was that I probably wasn't going to see her again, because I was like, you're going to med school. Okay. And she was interested in these different medical schools in, I think, other states. So I was like, okay. So I try not to get my hopes up too much. I was just like, all right, got it, you know. So I thought I probably wasn't going to see her again.
He left for Mexico, and I was working at a doctor's office at that moment. So I just continued my life as if, you know, nothing happened. I mean, I remember at that moment, at that point in time, I just went back to work as usual. You know, it's back to work after the week off and all that for going to Nigeria. I resumed work.
But even so, like, you know, so we kind of left that meeting and went our own ways. And I was thinking, we might not see her, you know, I might not be able to see her again. Felt kind of bad about it, but I was trying not to, like, you know, be too attached already. You know, I'd only met her twice. But yeah, that was kind of the end of that second meeting. But at the end of the second meeting, I realized one very important thing, that I had not gotten her contact.
I realized I couldn't stop thinking about him. And I didn't get his number. He didn't get my number either. So I got his name. So I looked him up. I think I found him on maybe LinkedIn, on Facebook. I was looking at his, he just didn't have much on photos on Facebook. I was like, okay, that's him. I remember him.
Second time I met her, and still did not have her number, still did not have any sort of contact for her. So that was a huge bummer, because once I went to Mexico, and I settled in. I ended up living alone, even though I was with other instructors. I ended up living separate just because of the living situation was a bit tricky, and so I stayed on my own. Had some neighbors around and whatnot, but I had a lot of time to think, and I couldn't stop thinking of Anu. It was very difficult because I didn't have her contact, and I stalked her. I tried to find her on social media. She wasn't anywhere except LinkedIn. So I sent her like a, friend request type thing on LinkedIn, and she didn't respond. And that was also the only photo I could find of her online. And it was tiny, and I couldn't see her face. And I really wanted to see her face because I didn't want to forget it.
But every week when I go to work, I search him up. I kept thinking about him, but I didn't let him know that. Of course, I put my profile in private so that no one could really search me. So even if he searched, he probably wouldn't have found me. But then he found me on LinkedIn, and then he requested to be friends with me on LinkedIn. And I was like, I wouldn't make it too easy for you. So I just let it sit there. I did not accept his friend request. I was like, oh my gosh, at least it's like, made me think like maybe he's a little interested in me. But that was that. I was remembering the feel of the shake of when I shook his hand and how comforting that was. And I was like, well.
And I'm just like, gosh, how do I... I don't know, it was just this desire in me, and I couldn't stop thinking about her hand. I mean, it was the only part of her that I touched, but I couldn't stop thinking about that handshake, I just, because she just has this unique, has this unique beauty about her, and I wanted to see that again. I wanted to see her face again. I really did. So I did something that maybe sounds pretty crazy. If you've seen, what's that movie? If you've seen The Truman Show, then this might make a little bit more sense, where he was kind of piecing together to put this face together of this girl that he had met only once. And that was kind of like what I had. And I only had Google. So I was Googling like Yoruba women, Nigerian women, like things like that, to try to piece together like this face, of her face, to try to remember it, to try to see it again, and but no one looked like her.
I remember I was in my office. I went over to look at the calendar. I'm like, okay, it's only July. I think he'll be here. Maybe in 1 week he should be back from Mexico. I said, I hope he's doing well.
So you could say I was pretty fascinated with her. It wasn't unhealthy, I don't think, but I just couldn't get her out of my mind, I guess you could say. It wasn't like I was intentionally like, I just couldn't get her out of my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about her, in my downtime. She was all I thought about. And so, I spent the whole summer like that. Then once I finally went back to the US, I had really no hope of seeing her. I kept thinking about her though, but I had really no hope of seeing her.
So it was 6 weeks. I calculated the time was 6 weeks, and it was time for him to return. But he didn't return. I was feeling very down. I thought, well, again, I shouldn't have thought too much of it anyways, because I suppose if it's meant to be, it will be. Maybe he decided he doesn't want to stay in Indiana. He found another job somewhere. My brain started going, spiraling. I'm like, but it's okay.
She hadn't responded to me on LinkedIn or anything. So I went back to the US and then immediately went to visit family in another state, and then came back with them actually, because my sister was gonna be staying with me again. For that year, one of my younger sisters. And so I ended up not arriving, I guess, back in Indiana until about a week or so after the time that I said I would be back, that I told Anu that I would be back. So
I'll keep living my life. So it was the 7th week.
So anyways, so that was kind of, you know, the second meeting, summer, our time apart. It was a bit difficult, you know, because like I said, the only photo I had of her was of her standing in front of the big rock in Abeokuta, which I didn't know it was that at the time, but I learned later. And it was just a tiny little LinkedIn photo. That was it. Yeah, stay tuned. This is going to be a whole series, so we have a lot of different parts lined up because it's a long story. It's a very long story. But yeah, stay tuned for the next one.
Yep. Like, share, subscribe to our channel, Familia Pablanu, and see more of our vlogs. Live vicariously through us in the pearl, in the warmth of the Pearl of Africa. We'll bring you the next part.
And
coming soon.
update your notifications, so
Yes.
you can get each one of the parts as they come up, so you don't miss anything.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you so much. Wadabo. Bye.
Walaba.